Which came first, le poulet ou l'oeuf? Today it's eggs, hands down, with these 3 classic French recipes. First, my buddy, the French chef Frédéric Goudenot, shows me a simple and sensational dish.
We're gonna make savory galettes, which is the salty version of the crepe. Today we will make with a fried egg, ham and cheese.
Oh, ham, egg, and cheese. That is so American. Thank you. I'm going to show you how to make my French salad. And we're going to make something that looks like a rose.
Hello, I'm Julia Child.
A fluffy broccoli and goat cheese omelette inspired by Julia Child's classic. Then a favorite of mine, eggs baked in red wine. It's actually based on a classic French recipe called Oeuf en Mourette, and it's amazing. Eggs made the French way. C'est si bon. Today on Sarah's Weeknight Meals. I'm here today with my friend Chef Frédéric from France, and you're going to show me, I'm so excited, a dish that could be a nice weeknight meal. What are we making?
Yes, exactly. We're gonna make savory galettes, which is the salty version of the crepe. Today we will make with a fried egg, ham and cheese.
Oh, ham, egg, and cheese. That is so American. Thank you. Okay, so where do we start?
We start by taking, so you will mix the dry ingredients.
Okay.
So 2 cups of buckwheat flour.
You never use measuring cups, right?
No.
You weigh things. Okay. We're doing cups because a lot of American cooks like to measure. If you were going to weigh them, you'd need 240 grams of buckwheat flour. And then
you need 1/2 cup of
all-purpose
flour. A pinch of salt.
A pinch of salt, that's about a 1/2 teaspoon. And I'm going to whisk this up.
Exactly.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, I'm gonna do the wet ingredients. So I take 1 large egg, a cup of milk, and a cup of water.
And that's just regular whole milk, right?
Yes, whole milk. Now we're gonna add the liquid into the dry ingredient.
It should be the consistency of a thin pancake batter. You could do this in a blender. Of course, he would not because he's French. But you just throw everything in a blender and hit the button. Okay, Chef, do you want to take over here and just see if you like it? So now what happens?
Now we're gonna let it rest.
Okay.
Because it's a French recipe, so it needs to rest.
Those French are so lazy. No, really, the reason that it needs to rest is to let the gluten relax in the flour so that you have a very tender crepe in the end. While that's resting, I'm going to show you how to make my French salad, okay?
Sure.
Can you bring up the toppings over there? This is something I used to make at a restaurant in 1978 when I was just 12. And it's just a very pretty presentation. Let me mention, I have this dressing. We're not going to make it today, but don't worry, the recipe will be online so you can find it. It's a creamy garlic dressing, which has sherry vinegar in it. If you're not a fan of raw garlic, there's just a tiny bit, but if you're not, you can use shallots, chopped shallots. And what do you think?
I prefer shallots as well.
You don't want garlic breath?
No.
No, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, this is butter lettuce, Boston lettuce, and we're going to make something that looks like a rose. So we start with the larger leaves on the outside.
Sure.
Okay, and then we build it up. It's sort of counterintuitive to what the French usually do because, yeah, you have to press it down, good for you, because they like to toss the greens with the dressing. We're not going to do that today. Oh, you got a big one, but that's because you're a boy. Okay, so I have a little one, you have a big one. There we go. Okay. So now we have some cherry tomatoes, scallions, cucumber, and these are pepitas, pumpkin seeds. So we just sprinkle these around, tuck in the tomatoes, tuck it into the various parts. We don't need a ton. Oh, isn't that lovely? Okay, so now we're gonna just drizzle this yummy dressing, and then we're all set and can go back and work on our crepes.
The clarified butter.
What is clarified butter?
So this is butter that we are melting very slowly, and we get the 3 layers.
The top layer is the scum, which is protein solids. The middle layer is the butter oil, which is what we want, right?
Yes.
And the bottom layer is milk solids, which is watery stuff. But you don't, this has been melted, and it looks like it's only got 2 layers. Where's the scum?
Because it's a good quality butter. It's coming from France. This is why.
Oh, it is French butter, therefore it is better butter. Why do we want to just get to the butter oil.
To avoid that the butter burns.
What makes the butter burn are the milk solids and the protein.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. This is a fun thing. The French use it to saute.
Yes,
Because you wouldn't use oil, right?
No,
Why not?
because we like butter.
Okay, I like it. Julia would like that answer because we like butter. Okay, very good. The only trouble is you take a pound of butter and you melt it and skim off the top and pour off the bottom. You only end up about 12 ounces. You go from 16 ounces to 12 ounces. You lose a fair amount of the butter. Okay.
This is the butter.
Got a good night's rest. And we're using a crepe pan.
Crepe pan, non-stick pan basically.
Okay, non-stick pan.
So you take a brush. Not every crepe, we just do for
Just the first one.
First one.
You just need to get some oil in there.
Exactly.
Now, how do you know when it's hot enough, the pan?
You see some smoke, you know,
Little bit, till it's almost starts smoking.
Yes.
Okay, so we just have to wait half a second. Oh, you know what they say about the first crepe? It's like the first pancake. Sometimes you have to throw it out, but not with Chef Frederic. You may notice that this keeps beeping. It's because we're using an induction burner, and it doesn't like it when we take the pan off of it. But what's great about induction is it heats up really fast, and the burner itself does not get hot, so it's very safe. Oh, this takes no time at all.
No.
It looks sort of, oh, beautiful. Wow, that's lovely. It doesn't take as long on the second side as the first, correct?
Yeah, and then we're gonna flip it
Yeah, dump
inside.
it. And can I make one?
Sure.
Here we go. You gotta work really quickly. It sets almost as soon as it hits the pan. Oops. Okay. You think it's ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yay!
As beautiful as mine.
Oh, that was so nice of you. Thank you. So now you're going to show me how to do...
A fried egg inside the ring.
Oh, inside the ring.
Yes.
Wow, I love that. Oh, that's so wonderful. So if you don't have one of these pretty rings at home, take a can of tuna or salmon, take off the top and the bottom, wash it out like crazy, and then you can use the tin.
A little bit of salt.
A little bit of salt.
While the egg is cooking, let me get the ham and cheese. We're gonna slice it into a julienne. For the cheese.
What kind of cheese are we using?
Emmental cheese.
Emmentaler. It's one of the two cheeses you use for fondue.
Yes.
Wow, that looks like it's done.
Yes, exactly. I'm gonna remove it. Then I'm gonna assemble the crepe. So basically you take the crepe on your table, you just fold it to make it nice.
Oh, that's very pretty.
Just
Weighted down with a little cheese.
a little bit of cheese, a little bit of ham. Then I'm gonna take out, so you take a knife, take out.
I'm going to save all my tuna fish and salmon cans from now on. Much nicer presentation. Oh, wow.
That's it, and you just put
Put
it
it
back
in to melt.
inside.
That is gorgeous. What a magic trick.
A
Yummy.
few seconds for the heat to come from the bottom and to melt the cheese. The egg is already cooked, so there's no need.
Très joli. Très beau. Très beau. Oh, it's a boy thing, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Très joli is for a
Girl.
human being.
Oh, okay. Thank you for correcting me.
So I think it's ready.
Yeah,
The cheese
wow.
starts to
I
melt,
can
so we
see,
can
yeah.
stop it and put it directly on the plate. I'm gonna put it
Oh,
onto
that's
the
so
plate.
beautiful.
There we go.
And because it's induction, we can put the plate on there. It doesn't heat up. Oh, I'm so excited.
Please.
Yes. Okay. I get the first bite?
Yes.
I'm going to break the yolk?
Yes.
Okay, I feel very honored. Nice crispy bottom. Wow. So that is so wonderful. That is it. Our ham, egg, and cheese galette. Yay. Wonderful weeknight meal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Julia Child. Welcome to the French Chef.
There has never been anyone on TV like Julia Child, and her show had its own, well, unique way of doing things, helped by an army of volunteers and young people like me. Here we are on the set of Julia Child and More Company in 1979. I learned a ton from her, including her most famous bit of culinary wisdom.
But you can always pick it up, and if you're alone in the kitchen, who is going to see?
Now I'm going to make an omelet because this is the perfect vehicle for cleaning out the fridge. But there's also another reason. Let me just start making it, getting it together. So I've got some leftover cooked broccoli, about a cup. I'm adding it to 3 ounces of goat cheese. In 1962, Julia Child was asked on a show in Boston called We've Been Reading. Her book, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, was already in its 3rd printing, and they wanted her to come on and talk about it. So, smart lady, she took some eggs, she took some mushrooms, she took a pan, she made an omelet. And she did such a great job that the network got 27 letters. Woo! They'd never gotten that many before. And essentially what they said is put that woman back on TV. So a year later, January of 1963, she launched The French Chef on GBH in Boston. And the rest is history. All right, that is our filling. I'm going to come down here. Let me grab my butter first. Butter! Butter's very important. Julia just loved it. And I want to point out that, you know, Julia Child was never overweight. She never was. She ate well, but she ate smart. She never had seconds, and she never snacked. Okay, I'm just going to put a tablespoon in so it's ready when I get ready. And Julia loved making omelets. She would do it a way that I've never perfected, where she would literally pull it back, make it jump in the pan. But I'm making a souffle omelet. It's like a cross between an omelet and a souffle, both of which things Julia would have totally approved of. Okay, I've got 4 egg yolks and 4 egg whites. I need 5. It's best to separate the egg when it's cold. It's best to beat it when it is at room temperature. By the way, I'm using my hand because there's no sharp edges on this tool, so I'm not going to break the yolk. To the yolks, a hefty pinch of salt. And I'm going to add a little bit of flour, just 2 tablespoons of all-purpose unbleached flour. Oh, and let me add a little bit of pepper. So when your eggs look nice and light, like this, we're going to beat our egg whites. By the way, I'm going to add a pinch of cream of tartar, and you could use a little bit of lemon juice if you don't have cream of tartar. If you have a copper bowl, use it. Copper reacts, it's a chemical reaction with the egg whites that makes them stay up longer after you've beaten them. So I'm going to add a little bit of this first and just stir it right in to lighten the base. This is the base of our souffle omelet. But now that we've lightened our base, I am going to fold in the rest of the egg whites. So look at all this. This is just for 2 people. So we're going to put this into the hot pan. We've preheated the oven to 375, and this is going to go in for about 10 minutes or till it's all puffed and golden. Into the oven. All right, so while that is baking, I'm going to come on down and look at some of my books that I have with me and Julia. So this is the book that I worked on with Julia Child and the show that went with it. And there's these wonderful pictures of me in the beginning, which I'm so proud of. But at any rate, here's how I got the job. I lied. I was working as the chef manager of a catering operation in Boston, and one of the people who worked for me was a volunteer on Julia's show. I said, great, I volunteered too. So I got Julia on the phone because she was listed, and she gets right on and she says, oh dearie, I've heard all about you. Do you food style? Well, back then, no, I hadn't really. What did I say? Yes, I'm really good at it. What would you have said? At any rate, I got the job, and I learned a lot on the job. We had so much fun. It took 3 months, and it was an amazing education. And you know, it was a relationship that lasted for the rest of her life. Okay, well, I better go check that omelet. Ooh, boy, that looks perfect. Remember, this handle is hot. Okay, now, I'm gonna keep that right there so I don't forget that it's hot. I'm gonna put the filling, I'm just gonna make a little indent and put the filling on this half and fold over the other half. Isn't that beautiful? I love eggs. I think eggs are like my favorite thing to cook. Now, I'm gonna take my trusty spatula and, okay, here we go. Back in the oven, just for 2 minutes. We just want to melt the cheese and get it all to sort of come together. So while that's doing its thing, I'm going to slice up some tomatoes and pour myself a little glass of Sancerre, which is a wine from the Loire, French wine, of course, dry wine. It's actually Sauvignon Blanc that Julia loved. All right, I bet it's done. I mean, it was done before, we just had to melt it a bit. Do you believe that this is for 2 people? It's just 5 eggs? That's pretty amazing, isn't it? I'm gonna take half. It's lots of air, but hey, it fools me, so I'm happy. And there you go. Wow. Yay, an omelet for Julia. Let's get some eggs.
Sure.
And what size would you say these are?
These are basically right now large, almost extra large.
How much do I owe you?
$4.50, please.
At first glance, this recipe might seem a little odd. I mean, eggs and red wine. But it's actually based on a classic French recipe called Oeuf en Omelette. And it's amazing. You think about it, eggs, they're a little flat. So they could use the acid from the red wine. And the red wine also gives a great depth of flavor. And what's perfect about this dish is that it's baked. And it should make you think about other things to do with eggs. In the oven, you can put almost anything in a little skillet and put eggs on top and bake it. And it's just such an easy way to cook them, an easy dinner to make, and it's not much mess. So I have about 3 strips of bacon I'm cooking over medium heat here. And we're gonna save a little bit of the bacon fat. We got good rustic bread. I'm gonna rub it with a clove of garlic, just to get that little garlicky taste in there. And we're not gonna toast it first because it ends up toasting in the oven. Everything happens in the oven. So we're gonna put this in here. You could use any bread that you like, but I like the rustic style. I always like the rustic style. It just has such great flavor. And then the same garlic that I just used to rub it with, I'm gonna mince. And we're gonna saute this in our bacon fat. Okay, now shallot. Shallots are great because they're in the onion family, but they're not as strong as onion. All right, shallot goes in the pan with the garlic. That's a lot of shallot, but I don't care, I like it. We're just gonna get them softened, maybe a little bit of color. But you don't want to get too much color. The trouble with garlic when you do that is it gets sort of bitter. Let me measure my wine. We're going to be adding dry red wine. There's many dry varieties you could use, such as a Cabernet, a Merlot, a Pinot, a Shiraz, a Zinfandel, Sangiovese. There's so many out there. And we're going to add about 3/4 of a cup of Pinot Noir. We're going to reduce it all the way down, so it's not quite so acidic. All right, so off heat. I'm gonna add the wine, although wine doesn't usually catch fire. I'm gonna go with a little more, maybe more like a half a cup. It's sort of up to you how much of a strong wine flavor you want. We're just gonna simmer this down until we get a couple of tablespoons and it's concentrated. We're making beurre Marnier here. We need a tablespoon of unsalted butter and about a half a tablespoon of all-purpose flour. And this is soft enough, this butter, I'm just gonna mush it together. You could also thicken this with what's known as a slurry, which is just flour and water whisked together. My wine is just about reduced. We want it almost dry, and then I'm gonna add some chicken broth. And here we have our chicken broth, and we're gonna use about a half a cup. If it gets too thick, I add more. If it's too thin, I cook it down. And let that simmer for a few minutes. Let me crumble up, or I'm gonna chop my bacon, actually. This doesn't come back into play till later when we top off our baked eggs with the bacon. But might as well get it ready. And you know, large pieces, small pieces. Okay, just gonna add a little salt and pepper, and then we're gonna thicken it. If you're gonna use pepper, and I hope you do, it's a great ingredient, please always use freshly ground. That stuff that's been sitting around in the jar just doesn't have great flavor. So I'm gonna take this off for half a second and just pour a little bit in here. The way you're supposed to add this kneaded butter to a sauce is to just throw it in bits until you get the consistency you want. I find that rather perilous. I don't know, I end up with dumplings. So instead, I add a little bit of the sauce to the butter mixture and smooth it out before I whisk it back into the sauce. And if it seems too thick at this point, you can add tiny more bit of chicken broth. All right, I'm gonna say that's good. And it's gonna bake some more in the oven. We'll get rid of the rest of that extra flour taste. So now we're gonna divide this between our two casserole dishes. We pour it right down the middle. Let me just get this out of the way of the bread. Make sure it will go around the bottom. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna put the eggs on top. And we've got large, fresh eggs. Right on top. Whoop. Oh, there they go. This is not rocket science, so it's okay. Let's see if I can keep them on top. It's fun if you can keep them in the middle, but as I said, it isn't absolutely necessary. A little bit of salt. Now, I preheated the oven to 350 degrees. I'm gonna pop them in. They take anywhere from 12 to 16 minutes, depending on how well done you like your eggs. All right, I'm gonna go pick some fresh herbs to chop up and put on top. So, depending on how you like them done, you cook them more or less. They can be really runny, they can be less runny. I'm gonna just let that sit for a second while I get the rest of this ready. I'm gonna chop my chives. And I like chives, but what would be very French here would be tarragon. Certainly parsley always works. And then I've got some asparagus to put on the side. My thought was, I blanched them. You can blanch them ahead. That means just boil them quickly for a few minutes. Don't completely finish cooking them. I'm gonna heat them in a little butter. Okay. And that is all they need, and it's very appropriate in this dish to have a little butter, salt, put that bacon around the edges. What a cozy meal for two, eggs baked in red wine.